Welcome to Porch Play Chats, sponsored by the American Association for the Child's Right to Play, or more affectionately called IPA USA. IPA USA is a USA affiliate of the International Play Association, and there's about 25 countries that have affiliates all across the world. To promote play, and play as being child initiated and self-directed by children, IPA USA created Porch Play Chats, which are conversations with people who are just as passionate about play as we are. You can find all the Porch Play Chats, and there's more than 200 of them on a wide range of topics, all focused on play. If you go to our website at ipausa.org, up in the top right-hand corner, you click on our YouTube channel and subscribe to us, click on our Facebook page and be a friend, click on Instagram and follow us, and subscribe to Spotify, which is free to you. And all the Porch Play Chats, if you're a YouTube subscriber or a Facebook friend, will appear in your feed every Monday. You'll get a brand new one. I'm Deb Lawrence, and I'm president of IPA USA. And with me on the porch is Jesse Danger. Jesse, it's so great to see you again.
Great to
Jesse's
be here.
yes, he's the co-founder and CEO of the Movement Creative, and he's been training and coaching around play since 2004. You look way too young to be doing it that long. He credits novel movement experiences as being the core of his education. Jesse sees movement as a way to explore the world physically while connecting socially. And these novel movement moments have led to most of the conversations that have helped him grow. So today, Jesse's going to talk to us about reclaiming the wild, supporting autonomy and freedom through movement. What a fabulous topic. Tell me
Thank
more
you.
about that.
Yeah, where do we begin?
Where do we?
Well, let's see. I was growing up in the 90s, and I was encouraged to go outside and spend time with my friends and play. Uh, I had the kind of like come back when the lights come on
Or the
outside
train whistle
rule.
blows. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And uh yeah, we went to parks all over. We played in streams around our town. We created all sorts of adventures and challenges. And then then I was spending a lot of time skateboarding. It's a very individual, self-directed movement discipline.
Joyful,
Um,
joyful, because you
to-
enjoyed it or you wouldn't have
Totally
done it.
joyful.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
I loved it. Yeah. And we had like our little neighborhood group, and we would go hang out with other neighborhood groups and like see what we could challenge each other with, or um and that was wonderful. And that kind of segued into parkour. And parkour is seeing what's possible in your environment. It's kind of turning the world into an obstacle course.
Mm-hmm.
And I also really like dialogue I've seen on site-specific dance. So, in a moment in space, like what's possible in this place right now with these people, this this body, like what can I do? And that becomes like it's an ever relevant prompt. It keeps you present to that moment. And in the practice of parkour, you're going out often and you're seeing what you're uniquely compelled to, some kind of a jump or an interaction with uh, like a handrail or a bench or some environmental feature that you haven't seen before.
Mm-hmm.
And then sometimes you are really nerding out on that. Sometimes you're creating like interesting challenges around it. So that was such a formative part of me becoming who I am. And now we run a program, parkour adventure. So we have summer camp and after school, and we take kids around different parks in New York City, and we give them an opportunity to explore those through movement. I think this is challenging cultural norms like within New York City. It's
Mhm.
pushing some boundaries, what's appropriate, what's inappropriate. And I've had the pleasure of going to like cities all over the world, so I can see, to me at least, like within my story, I see a place like Copenhagen, or even a place like Denver or Seattle, where movement outside in public space is a little bit more uh, accepted, appreciated, encouraged,
Mhm.
um, and how that shapes people like growing up, and how that shapes a cultural attitude around movement, around uh yeah, really around movement access.
And I think when you talk about your childhood and you talk about playing in the neighborhood and playing with groups of friends and challenging yourselves within your peer groups in that community, what I hear in your thoughts, and correct me if I'm wrong, what I hear is you pushed yourselves physically. You you experience things that maybe you hadn't tried before. You were doing risky stuff that is not, well, it could have been hazardous. I mean, sometimes even me, who was climbing the tree or going out on the horse in a field miles from home with no adult around me. Sometimes my mother didn't know what I was doing, right? But those experiences really shape who you become, right? Because if you're able to participate in something that's different, new, challenging, and a little bit risky, you develop such self-confidence, and you're willing to try something new instead of being fearful. And so I think those experiences when you were younger in the neighborhood has led you on this journey where you're now sharing that kind of experience with kids in New York City who may not have ever had that opportunity. And
Yeah,
what's
I
that
mean,
like for them?
I think that it is really rare in a city in New York City in the 2020s. There's a lot of fear around movement, exploration in general. So I think that leads to a lot of people finding us, parents worried about their kids getting hurt, going off on their own, and we can become like guides and mentors through that process. We can create like environments, we can facilitate situations that allow looking at those different capacities, physical capacities, looking at exploring risk in a tangible way. Like as you were saying, like I wasn't going miles away from home on horseback, but we came across a abandoned railroad tracks, haven't been used in 20 years, and we said, oh, can we balance like 4 miles down this like without stepping off? And that would be like this big compelling effort, and it's developing a physical capacity, but it's also something magical when you see something and some part of you is not quite sure you can do it, and another part of you kind of thinks you can, and then you do it, and you're proving that part of you that believed in you right. And you do that over and over and over and over. And in that capacity, I'm so attached to the idea of self-driven challenge, because I think that is what makes the magic of that moment. It's wonderful to have somebody else believe in you and tell you that you can do something, but to engage with that little mental wrestling match and come out on top is just is phenomenal.
Well, and I think what it is the difference between someone saying, "Oh, what a good job you did," extrinsically, right? So I'm giving you a compliment. I'm noticing something you did, but it's someone else telling you versus you saying, I actually did that. I can't believe I did that." And building that confidence within you that makes you feel good about who you are as a person and wanting to try something else that might push you a little further because you were successful before. And you might not be always successful, but maybe if I tried it a different way, I would be successful. So I think it's that building of the inner core of your strength that gives you that increased self-esteem, that positive image of who you are as a person, and really helps you see the gifts that you bring to a relationship, to a group of people that you're working with, because you always have, and your leadership skills. I mean, think about the how about we try this next, and think of the creativity and innovation and initiative that is really what we're looking for in young children's development and older children's development that they may not have received because they haven't had access to someone who can hold them safely in a space, not holding, but you have created a space in different areas of the city where their family has confidence in you that you can keep them safe, but give them the experiences that they need. And so, and you're going to have bumps and bruises. I just mean they're not going to fall off a, high skyscraper or something and splat on the
Yeah.
pavement because the risk is part of the development. The risk is what's important. It's not hazardous, it's risk. And so I
Yeah.
think those are the strengths of what you do. And do you have kids that come back and repeat over and over?
Yeah, so we just sent a group of teenagers to Denmark for a week of training. So they've been training with us since they were like 8, 9, and now they're 5, 6, 7 years into like jumping around. And uh, we felt like it was so important for them to get the taste of doing this in another city. So like an example of that is
Mhm.
they're there on their first day and they've found some public plaza and they're jumping around, and some guy dressed in a yellow vest, looks like a police officer or something, comes over to them and they are sure that they're about to get kicked out, and he takes out his phone and he shows them a video of somebody else jumping around last week.
Oh,
And it's like this radically different experience of the situation.
mhm. Because the
And
culture is different, right? Because the
yeah,
culture in Denmark, or I don't know if they're in Amsterdam or where they are, but
yeah,
the culture of that country is
yeah,
more accepting of the need for children to do that.
yeah. So I mean, like I went and I studied in Denmark a few years ago for a semester to start to see this and put together like what is the cultural difference. But you have like they have 5.5 million people in the country and 150 parkour parks. I think we have less than a dozen parkour parks across all of the US. And it's just that's just one example of how they're supporting this like self-directed like exploration
Physical,
of movement in
yeah.
public space, physical. And then you also see, and I think you can tie to that like that Denmark, I believe they're 96% active through like all ages.
Hmm.
I got to work at I got to work at Gallo Idrotts Højskole a bit, and I was working with a group of kids aged 6 to 14, and we had a parkour structure that was 20 feet high, and the parents were really happy to see their 7-year-olds and 8-year-olds like climb up and engage with that height. They were excited about it. I was worried about it. I'm used to, like, we follow all sorts of risk management protocol, like so that we meet our insurance needs, like, and that made me really uncomfortable. And then I had to really question that. And the way they taught around height was wonderful. Called it height medicine. It's a humility training. Like, one of the fascinating things about working with height is that you can find that even if you go up 1 foot, 2 feet off the ground, you can start to notice these sensational changes in your body. You start to like develop maybe a tension pattern. You're afraid of doing this, or afraid of doing that. And like, how far you can jump on the ground is not how far you can jump 3 feet up or 6 feet up or 9 feet up. And it's not supposed to be. You want to know what you're capable of. You're trying to become more aware of that and notice those little changes. And it's a really fascinating process. And that was taught in a way that was like, there was no pressure. Like, the attitude was like very supportive, and it was all non-competitive.
Yeah. So, I think what we're doing is harming that internal warning system, right? Oh, you're going, maybe I've climbed too high. I get this funny feeling in my stomach. So I've climbed high enough. I'm gonna come down. Or I want to jump. And I always tell this story, and people have heard it before. When I was even in my 30s and 40s, and maybe even in my 50s, if there was a 2.5 foot or 3 foot jump, I would just jump it. It was no big deal. In my 60s, I don't do that anymore. And it's not because it's it's an internal warning in my brain that says, better not jump. Why don't you sit down and step down? But I got that internal warning system from climbing trees, pecan trees, and from being thrown from a horse because he was trained by a circus and he was easily scared, and thrown into citrus trees and climbing, getting my way out of them, getting back on the horse and riding again. I learned all of those systems, and being able to swing as high as you wanted and jump off, right? Of trying to knock your friend off the seesaw when it was when you would go down, all of those, climbing upside down on the monkey bars with concrete underneath you. All of those things created this internal sort of system that helps us gauge where we are on the risk to hazardous continuum, I think. But if children don't have the experiences that you're giving them, then they don't develop that internal system because they've expected adults to keep them safe. Right? So
Yeah.
this is what scares me about the bubble wrapping that we're doing right now.
Yeah. I think so many things about that. One, I think that we're kind of co-regulating one another's nervous system, and that we have this, like, we're a bit more constricted about risk in general. So if I'm training outside, I might have a stranger say like, oh, get down from there, or be careful, or and seeing that as a like a cultural contrast to like training on the side of somebody's building in Denmark, and they come out with their 4-year-old in a stroller, and they're like, oh, this is so cool, and then the 4-year-old wants to try, and they're happy to have the 4-year-old try, and it's like, it's a totally different like dialogue. You think about like when kids fall, like, can you say like, oh, that was a great fall, like, or like, whoa, like,
Yeah.
are you
Which one are you
okay?
going to do?
You
Yeah.
know, and you can watch a child that just fell, like, kind of like they're surprised at what happened, and they're waiting almost to see how they should feel about it.
Mm-hmm.
And you see this like, are you okay? And then the kid starts crying, or like, oh, that was great, and the kid starts laughing. And it's like those little relational like differences. And
Mhm,
like of course, like you can also like fall and get hurt. Like that is a possibility. And like one of the things we work on is falling.
mhm,
So we want to make sure that like even if it looks like a jump that's binary, like you're gonna make this or not make it, like basically any possible outcome that you could imagine, you can plan around. You can
mhm.
plan what happens if I go a little bit too far forward or a little bit too far back, or what if I fall backwards this way, or that you like we use things like martial arts break falls and rolls and different training to find like a softness and awareness like when we're falling, so that falls hurt us less often. and
Yes.
uh and that skill carries over to the rest of our life. Like falls are falls will continue to be like something dangerous throughout our entire life. If we can fall safely when we're 50, 60, 70, 80, that's a
Totally
really
different.
important.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, think how many times. So I'm, you know, not great. And I mean, I do the elliptical twice a day, and that's where I'm happy with my physical activity. But I fall all the time, and I fell all the time. And the last time that's why I got the elliptical, because I kept falling on sidewalks. I would trip and everything. So it was bad, 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 stupid as I was getting older. Why are you doing this? And so it was really interesting that all of the training that you're doing and teaching them how to fall is going into their motor vestibular memory, right? So but that takes practice. Just like, how do you jump on a horse that's 3.5 feet taller than you are, right? His back, right? It takes motor vestibular memory that goes deeply into those memory templates in your brain, so it becomes automatic, not something that you have to think about anymore. And so that teaching them how to fall and practicing that over and over and over again is really keeping them much safer as they get older than those of us who have to go to a physical therapist, and the physical therapist says, walk for me. So this is what my physical therapist did last time I fell, walk for me. And so I walked back and forth like 5 or 6 times. And he said, you're not walking heel toe all the time. And that's why you're falling.
Mm.
Easy as that. And so it was really interesting. Haven't, fingers crossed, haven't fallen since then. That in my head, when I'm walking anywhere, in my head, I have a mantra: heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, heel toe, because I need that practice to get it into my motor vestibular memory. And so
Mm.
that is one of those sort of safety pieces that you are teaching kids that will help them forever. That is such an important piece of not only taking risks, but planning when you're taking a risk about what would happen if, or how will I fall if, or how will I roll if, or whatever. And so
Yeah.
those are amazing gifts that you give to the kids that you're working with.
And
So
oh,
no, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we try to extend that beyond the physical as well.
Mhm.
So we have something we call it like a challenge checklist or pre-flight checklist. Um, and we have kids also come up with these themselves, like what do you need to be sure of before you try something? Like
Mhm.
what would make it safe? And we talk about different risks, moving from like kind of internal risks to external risks. Like, are you like upset, distracted? Are you hungry? Are you tired? Like those
Mm.
all can lead you to make unhealthy
Okay.
decisions
Mhm.
in movement, but in general. And then moving into like social risks, like is there some kind of like distrust or aggression? Is there peer pressure? Do you feel like you have to do this thing for some reason? We talk about the value of like you being able to say yes or no being more important than you doing the challenge. So if
Yeah.
you can say no to a challenge, then that helps us feel safe as coaches also, because we don't want to get the sense that they're going to do whatever is presented or whatever anybody else is doing in class, that they're going to be able to like make their own decisions around their movement in a safe way. And then moving into the environment, we train all weather, outdoor. So we're out in the snow, the ice, the rain. We're out when it's humid, and we also work then on surfaces that are sometimes like slippery or unsturdy. There can be like things that are sharp we have to watch out for.
Mhm.
And that's all like before we even get to what movement are we doing, it's like how are we doing right now? What is this environment, both the social and the physical environment, like presenting to us? What's potentially dangerous about it, and how can we mitigate those risks?
I mean, just think about that. Just think about those lessons, Jesse, and the power of getting kids to think through the space and the environment. And I love the piece about, are you doing this because you feel pressured to do it? Or are you doing this because this is something, I mean, that's going to carry with them again for their lifetime that no, I can make my own decision, and I'm not going to let you pressure me into doing something that I don't feel is appropriate, safe, or healthy, right? So all of those, that's what is so critical about the work that you do and why it is such important work. And so outside of New York City, I know you say you travel extensively. So outside of New York City, how do you share what you're doing there to other parkour folks in the US?
Yeah. Well, I've had an opportunity to coach sessions, facilitate workshops all over the world. So that's one wonderful way. I also really like going and uh, attending events,
Mhm.
just gatherings of people coming from all over the world,
Mhm.
training together. Um, and we've made a book. Christina, I, and Steve from my team worked together on this Embrace Challenge book, and we have a bunch of these different models in it that we use around risk and around learning. Different things that we're thinking of. We have like learning models, social models. We have these challenge checklists, these like circles of risk moving outward.
And where can people get the book? Because I'll put it in the YouTube description.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, it's available on Amazon.
Okay, great.
Um, and it's also available as a PDF on our website.
And it's
Uh,
Embrace Challenge Book. I
yeah,
need the correct name of it so I can keep it.
it's called Embrace Challenge: Models of Learning That Help Us Thrive.
There we go. Perfect. I'm going to put that because I think people who are so risk averse need to need some help and guidance in finding ways to make risk more accessible. And on a 3-year-old playground, burying different tree logs in the ground at different heights and different space apart is risky. So it's not like we're going to ask you to let them jump off a 9-foot place, right? So our idea of risk is developmentally within a child's ability, not I want you to try something you've never done before that might be hazardous. So I think that's the importance. Jesse, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for coming. I hope to have you again. I know you did parkour once, but it was like 2 or 3 years ago. I think it was before
Yeah,
before 2022. I think people need to constantly hear this message and the approach that you're taking to help these kids who may not have access to places where they can challenge their bodies. I think that's really important. It's a great model. So stay right
I,
there while I close this out. You have any closing
yeah.
thoughts before we end?
Just that I so appreciated this time, and we work with all ages. While we're focused a lot on kids, we have a fantastic adult program. Um, yeah, I think that movement, exploring space, and connecting with people, having a good time moving is so critically important, and it's important that we remember how and share the ways.
I love it. I love it. And I think what is so beautiful about what you're doing with those groups of kids that you're working with is they're building community, friendships, relationships, and that strengthens over those challenges and their individual experiences in being successful or not, and the support that they get from the group as well. All of those things. Oh, just truly beautiful. I love it. All right, stay right there, Jesse. I'll be right back. So to learn more about
Thank
IPA USA, please visit our website at ipausa.org. And until next time, keep on playing.